Welcome to the Everyday Creative Podcast. We are two creatives that will discuss our own creative journeys, mental health, and a little bit of everything in between. Oh yeah, we're married too. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome back to the Everyday Creative Podcast. I'm Cameron.
And I'm Bryce.
And we're on episode 8, right?
8?
We don't have our sign to keep track.
I forget. I think it's 8.
I think it's 8. So we're on episode 8. If you haven't noticed already,
we have moved location. We're currently moving locations.
The whole time we're filming this, we are moving. We're on the move. We're in a different setting and setup than
We are.
our usual. So bear with the quality of this content.
Yes, it could be great.
It could be really
suck.
Cool.
Who knows?
Or
Maybe this will be an audio-only podcast.
Maybe. But we are on our way to a trip. We're on our way to Virginia.
We are.
So
Charlottesville.
Yep. So we decided we needed to record a podcast for this coming week. And so we just decided why not do it on the way there? Because we're talking anyways, so we'll just record it. And yeah, and also we're probably going to be looking ahead a lot because we're both looking at the road. So.
And I sure hope my phone doesn't run out of storage.
You just thought about that right now, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
Well,
we might have to re-record some.
It'll be alright.
Anyways, why don't we just... Well, actually, this feels so weird. I can't focus. And
there's too many distractions.
There's too many things happening. So bear with us in the beginning here. But let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What kind of creative were you this week?
I was an intensely busy creative.
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of work going on at the work. And so that kept me really busy Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
How about you?
I wasn't super creative this week. I had like a day where I was very creative.
Mm-hmm.
But then as the week went on, my mental health kind of declined quickly.
Very quickly.
So it was a little rough at moments. So I didn't really get around to creating or anything like that. But
you did draw a little bit.
Yeah. I did some I had some images in my mind that I put on paper, but yeah, other than that, it was a little bit of a rough week. So I'm very excited for this getaway trip that we're taking today.
Very excited.
All right, so let's get into our random generated question. I'm in charge of this week. Siri, pick a number between 1 and 50. She definitely did not listen to me. Okay. Hey Siri, pick a number between 1 and 50. 7.
7?
Now let me pull up the questions here. Number 7. Oh wait, we already did 7.
Okay.
It's the one with the like stage name.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Didn't
we did 7.
Hey Siri, pick a number between 1 and 50. 11. What's your favorite line from a movie?
Ooh.
There's so many for
There's
you,
so
Bryce.
many. Do you have one that sticks out to you?
No.
What's a favorite line from a movie?
I'm trying to think.
So, I don't know if this is my favorite line from a movie, but it's the first one that came to mind for some reason. It's in Good Will Hunting, where it's at the very end. Well, it's kind of a Chekhov's like quote sort of deal, where Robin Williams introduces the line earlier in the movie, but at the end, Matt Damon's character writes in his note to Robin Williams' character that he had to go see about a girl.
Yes.
That's like a great line.
That is a great line.
I love that line. There's so many quotable lines from that
I
movie.
feel like mine favorite, I can't think of any, but I feel like it would have to either be from High School Musical or like Spider-Man.
Okay.
I feel
like great power comes great responsibility.
Not like that. But aren't there like in like the Amazing Spider-Man? I feel like there's
there's a lot of great lines.
But I can't think of any off the top of my head right now because I don't remember those things like you do.
It's really weird. I can usually pull quotes out like it's no one's business, but you ask me and I can't think of anything right now.
I mean, in your defense, you're also driving.
I'm also driving, so my thoughts may not be coherent.
Yeah, but that's okay. Okay, so...
If I think of one in this drive, I will just randomly insert them.
This is probably going to be our shortest podcast ever.
Or longest, who knows?
Longest. So... Oh, jeez. The truck was coming over into our lane.
He was just drifting a little bit.
Yeah, that's freaky. Okay, so last night...
Well, no, we have to intro the segment with our fan favorite section. We had a poll. You guys voted.
No one voted.
Everybody voted. Lights,
Camaryn,
action!
So last night, we went and saw Civil War.
Yes.
So we saw it the night before the opening, I guess, technically, right?
Yeah.
So we saw Civil War last night. It is less than 24 hours since we've seen it.
Correct.
So you guys are going to get our honest review.
Fresh takes.
Our thoughts on it. It's sat a little bit with us, but not too long.
Yeah.
We haven't really prepared any of our thoughts. We're just kind of going to start talking and see how we feel about it.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, it's...
Buckle up.
Buckle up.
For the
it's
ride.
It's the mall. It was produced... The production company was A24, so it's under the banner of an A24 film. It was directed by Alex Garland. It's also written by him. He's done such amazing work as Ex Machina, Annihilation. He's done... His latest was Men, I think, was the one right before this. So I'm a really big Alex Garland fan. So I had high expectations.
Isn't this his last movie?
Yes. So ever since this movie came out, he has said that he is retiring from filmmaking. He's kind of exiting the filmmaker role and going to just do writing and some things like that, which is sad. But going into this movie, I was really excited because I love Alex's work. Ex Machina is one of my favorite films, and usually his films have important messages or themes in them.
Yeah.
And
so you kind of went in with that expectation.
I had an expectation, and the trailers were really well put together, and I went in with an expectation of what this was going to be. Mm-hmm. And not to spoil things, but it definitely was not what I was expecting. Mm-hmm. So,
which honestly has been a huge theme among movies that we've reviewed. Mm-hmm. Is just like somebody's got to do something with these trailers, because sometimes you go in thinking it's about something completely different than it actually is.
Exactly.
And that can be really confusing.
They can be very misleading.
Yeah.
So what are your initial thoughts?
Do you want to start with a rating, or we want to wait and do that?
So let's start with a rating.
What's your rating?
We're making this up on the fly.
Yeah,
Let's start off with a rating.
Yeah.
I don't have many fast facts because literally we just saw it yesterday and I've had no time to do research.
Because he's a busy creative.
Yes. Start off with a rating. I'll think if there's any facts that I know about it. And then we'll do kind of like a spoiler-free, just our thoughts that are spoiler-free. Okay. And then we'll just open up the floor to whatever flows. So, out of 5, what would you rate this?
Well, I think I'd rate it a 3.
A 3, okay.
What are you rating it? Are you rating it higher or lower than that?
Higher than a 3. It's not quite a 4. I would say... I don't know. A 3.5, maybe. I
feel confident in my 3 out of 5.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think you're being generous.
I haven't had enough time to sit with it. As we'll get into later, I have my thoughts are askew with this film.
Well, let's just start with this. So we come out of the movie theater. You guys know the drill. We don't talk to each other until we make it to the car, and then we process our thoughts and review the movie. recently we haven't even always been doing that because we've been waiting for the podcast, but we had to talk about this one.
Yeah, I was contemplating after the movie ended, are we going to talk about this or not? But I knew I had to get some things off my chest.
Yeah, we had to process some things. So the first thing that you said when we got in the car was, I don't think I liked it. Right?
I think my exact words were, I don't know if this is a good movie.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I was like, was that movie bad?
Yeah.
That's pretty much my thought. Is this bad?
Yeah. So is that how you still feel?
I don't 100% feel that way. So some spoiler-free thoughts, just generally. I did come out of the movie yesterday thinking, is this movie bad? Is this like trash?
Okay, trash might be a little.
I go to the extremes.
Yeah,
It's
the
definitely
movie can be bad without it being trash.
It's definitely not trash. I'll just say that. It's not trash, and I don't think it's bad. I do find it incoherent at times.
Yeah.
And it lacks any sort of depth.
Yeah.
There's no depth, which I want to get into in more the spoilery realm, where I think there could be some depth. But whenever I come out of a movie, and this is just my read on things, I like to look for themes and kind of what they're trying to say in the art. And I didn't know what Alex Garland was trying to say. Wow.
Oh.
They are zooming.
That was so fast.
Yeah. I didn't know what Alex Garland was trying to say with this film.
Yeah.
And that could be partially on me, just not reading it the way that he wanted to, but also I had this preconceived notion of what I thought it was going to be. And I can't judge a movie, like I told you, we can't judge movies based on what wasn't there or what we thought it was going to be and it was different. We have to judge a movie based on what it is.
Yeah.
But also, we like to critique, and we are aspiring critics, so we have to think about it like broad strokes, like what it could have been too. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was like horrible, but it definitely wasn't his best work.
So I think if we just start like kind of with what you said, I agree that I didn't always know, like I didn't know what the main idea of the movie was. I think I can say this without it being a spoiler. So obviously the movie is called Civil War, and if you've watched any of the trailers, you know that it's about a civil war in the U.S.
Yeah.
In which California and Texas combine forces. They secede from the United States. They combine forces and they're fighting against the United States in a civil war.
Yep.
So I went in thinking that like the main idea of this movie was about the United States in a civil war. You know what I mean? And what that could possibly look like in today's world. But instead, it's very focused on the journalists who are capturing these
Kirsten
moments.
Dunst. I don't know the guy's name.
Do you want me to look it up?
Kaylee Spaney, yeah.
Let me just look up real quick. See if it'll load.
They are journalists who are trying to reach a point, and we'll get into it in the spoiler section, but they're trying to do something journalistically. And Kirsten Dunst is a photojournalist, so she's a world-renowned photojournalist. So she's been in war, she's captured some amazing images, so she wants to go capture this one more image. And that's kind of the basic premise of the movie, which I did not really know beforehand. Like you were saying, like I thought it was going to be about the war, the unrest, all of that, but it was really a journalism story. So if you go in with thinking that it's actually a journalism story, maybe it's a better movie. Yeah.
Wagner Moura, Moura.
Mora?
Yeah.
Wagner
That's
Moura?
Joel.
Wagner Moura. Joel. So his name's Joel, not Joe.
Yeah.
Joel. Okay, cool.
Okay, so Yeah, so that's kind of like a confusing part, and something that we talked about last night after we watched it is, was it really necessary for it to be like an American Civil War?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, we'll get more into this with the spoiler, but it could have been set anywhere. There wasn't anything that made it more specifically like American. Does that make sense? So I think that was part of the reason that goes into my rating of just like, what was the point of calling this movie Civil War, of making it about an American Civil War in present day, if that's not a main, really, like, it wasn't enough of the main story. That makes sense? Like, it's kind of more of the setting, but not necessarily the story. Then also, like, since the story seems to be more about journalists, there's really not that much development in their storyline.
There is...
Like, how many days would you say this movie
I would say it gets a little
4?
Incoherent at the end. I was going to say 4 days.
Yeah.
3 or 4 days, probably. It gets a little rushed at the end, where you don't know how long or how they got to where they... But it's just... I would say that...
This guy's coming.
Yes. Where the movie lacks depth, it also lacks character depth. Like, there's no depth to characters, and there's no depth to the movie.
And I think sometimes the thing that makes storytelling so great in movies is, and I know this doesn't happen with every character, because there are some movies where any growth in a character or a character arc, like there's, like, for example, I don't know why this just popped into my head, and maybe I'm interpreting this incorrectly, but like the Joker doesn't change, right?
Yeah.
Like, because if you made a redemptive factor to him, it wouldn't be the Joker anymore, right?
Well, yeah. Aside from the movie Joker, which is a whole different version of the Joker.
Like, just the character in, like, the...
Yeah. There's no really redemptive qualities.
So there are characters where that happens, and it's almost, like, necessary to the character.
Like, you're not going to try to redeem, like, Jeffrey Dahmer.
But I also think that there's character arcs that can happen without redemption.
Yes.
But it's just a character, like, it's unfolding the character. It's understanding a deeper understanding of who this person is, what makes that person, what motivates them, what drives them. And you don't get that in this movie, like, very much.
Not really.
Which I kind of missed, because
minimally,
if the movie's not going to be about the Civil War and it's going to be about these journalists, then we should have a deeper understanding of who they are as humans.
Exactly.
So, do you want to kind of talk more into, like, the spoiler
territory?
So
if you haven't seen it, which you probably haven't, and I don't think this is going to be a big box office hit.
But if you wanna watch it without any spoilers, watch it and then come back and see if you agree with some of our thoughts. But if you don't care, we're gonna probably have some spoilers.
So spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so this movie, man, I don't know. I'm still processing through it. Yeah. To be completely honest, I'm a little less harsh on it, I think, today than I was yesterday.
Okay. And why? What's the change?
I think that it is less of a problem with the movie and more of a problem with me. I'm the problem. That I went in with a certain expectation. And then whenever it did not meet my expectation, it kind of blanketed my view of what the movie was. And whenever I started to think about it, of what the movie actually was this morning, I realized maybe it's not as bad as I thought it was, because it didn't meet my expectation. I still don't think it's a good movie. I think it lacks character depth. I think it lacks plot. There's just a lot of things that don't quite make sense.
There's questions.
There's a lot of holes. Questions, like, how did we get to this Civil War? Yeah. I think if they would have named... It's a very polarizing...
Let me say this real quick. I know that you're reflecting.
Yeah.
But I had no expectation going into this movie. And I still didn't like it. Yeah. So it might not be you as much as you think it is. But anyways.
So, just based off the trailers and the title itself, the title's so polarizing. And it's so provoking. Civil War. Like, that, whenever you say Civil War in America, that's something that provokes a feeling and, like, their sides.
Yeah.
So they knew going into it, like, okay, we're naming it Civil War. This is, like, I went into thinking that this was going to be a provocative film. Not saying that there's, like, a good side and a bad side, but, like, that we would want to choose a side.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be a warning.
Yes. But this was, like, a war film with no... Politics. Yeah, it was pretty apolitical.
And we talked about that last night. And when we say, just to preface, when we say that we wanted more politics in it, we don't mean, like, our U.S. politics and the political climate of the United States now. Like, we're not talking we wanted to have more, Republican or Democratic, like, representation. What we're saying is, if there's a conflict in a country, because they kind of portray this version of America, it almost feels out of touch from our America. Like, I understand what they were trying to do, but it feels like it's just a different land. Does that make sense?
It didn't feel like it was far enough in the future where, like, America could have gotten to a place like that.
Yeah.
And it just felt like, okay, we're looking at 2024 America, but, like, how did we get here?
Yeah, because if you're gonna have such a, like, divide in a country to the point where a country is fighting each other, then there has to be something political that led to that. And we get no idea. There's, like, one slight conversation about why they got there.
Yeah.
But not much. And you honestly, like, don't know who the good guys or the bad guys are. And I think that's fine, because I don't think that there's always, like, a good guy and a bad guy. But there's a side that I think it should have been something where you felt compelled to choose a side.
Yeah.
And
I think you could, like, imply that the president was probably bad. But
right, because of that, like, short conversation that was had.
Yeah, but there's not, like, explicit, and it's not written directly in the text that the president and the United States are bad and the Western forces are, like, the good guys.
Yeah, I guess, like, it kind of, if I didn't have expectations with what the film would look like, or, like, I didn't know the director before this or whatever, but I will say maybe an expectation that I did have going into it, that this was going to be more of more of a build up to a civil war, not, like, when you do watch the movie, it's like you are already you're in the midst of the Civil War. Like, it's been going on for a while.
Yeah.
But there's not even, like, a reference back to how they got there.
Yeah.
And so even if you want to have it set where it's predominantly like, oh, we've been, like, a year into fighting, but it's like, okay, but how have we gotten here? And
exactly,
like, what are they fighting against? And you're honestly not even sure throughout the movie what characters are on what side.
Yeah.
You're very confused.
So I think my thoughts this morning were, if we take this as a journalism movie, a lot of journalists are very apolitical. They have to be apolitical. They do have a bias one way or another.
Yeah.
But sometimes these journalists get very cold and they become non-emotional. They can see people get shot or burned, and they're just... They do their job. They do their job. It's their job. They have to, like, flick a switch and be like, okay, this is my job. And I think maybe the theme of this movie is a critique on journalism and media today, because they don't present journalists and media in a great light in this movie, if you think about it. Like, you see these, like, at the very end of the movie, so the whole premise is they're going to see the president before the Western forces kill him. And they want one last quote and, like, a last picture or, like, a last interview. And so the final big set piece is they're in the White House, there's a shootout, and Kaylee Spaney, what's her name, Jessie in the movie?
Yeah, that's the young girl.
Yeah,
Jessie.
Is an aspiring photographer who this cycle just continues, that she, like, almost dies, gets saved, goes through trauma, all this stuff. But she goes and tries to get this last picture, and somebody aims a gun at her, and Kirsten Dunst dives and pushes her out of the way, and she dies. And it's implied that Kirsten's character and Joel have been friends for a long time.
Like partners in the journalist
right
industry.
after she dies, she's shot. Both Jesse and Joel keep on going to get the story. There's no remorse for their dead friend, even though they've traveled cross-country
and they've
with
been
them.
through all these traumatic experiences together.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of like, it's not even like a, we have to go get this, like, we'll come back for whatever. Like, there's no implication. It's just like, oh, let's just leave her.
Yeah, and like, whenever I first saw that, I took that as, oh, that's like really poor writing.
Yeah.
Like, that's really weird. But the more I've sat with that scene, I'm like, this might be a critique on journalism, as in, oh, it's all about the story. We have to get the story.
But go ahead.
And then just one more thought, and then I want to hear some more thoughts from you. Like, the final scene is the Western forces have the president surrounded, and all that Joel wants to do is get a final quote from the president. And his final quote's like, "Don't let them kill me." And he says, "That'll do." And I thought that was poor writing again last night. And then I thought about it, and I was like, maybe that's another critique on, like, media today. It's like, we just want these quippy, like, short, like, headlining kind of, I don't know, clickbaity titles of, like, "Don't let them kill me." But there's nothing deeper than that. I don't know. That was just my take, I guess. It could be wrong. What's your take?
I mean, with that last, like, I don't think that necessarily that last scene was bad writing, because the way that I interpreted it with, like, the president saying, "Don't kill me," or tell them not to kill me, is that was kind of like his plea of weakness. So it's like, oh, you played this, like, tough guy, but now when it comes down to it, you're just weak. Like, you don't actually stand for what. So I feel like that was kind of what that was representing.
There's some underlying text there.
Yeah. But what I will say is, though, if this whole movie, a few things. If this whole movie is just a commentary about, like, journalism, then one thing is, as the writer, and I know we're saying that they're apolitical, but they are still human beings with some sort of motivation or desire. And if it's for journalism, for them to get the story, then I wish they would have developed that more in the character. Like, we talked about that last night, where it's like, well, you know, for them to leave Lee, Kirsten's character, to just die by herself because they were trying to get the story, that's kind of a selfish thing. And so are they saying, like, you have people in this movie who are fighting on the Western Front. We don't really know what they stand for, because it doesn't tell us, but clearly they stand for something. You have people who are protecting the president. Clearly they stand for something. We don't really know what. But, like,
and maybe, is that important? I think it's important, but
I think it's very important.
I think
you
it's
have
important.
these, like, radical characters that aren't really on the Western Front. They're not really on the side of the president, but they're just kind of, like, going out there and killing people, and, like, they're standing for their own thing. Like, that's their own motivation. Do we know what it is? Not really. But when it comes to, like, the journalists, like, I feel like because they're the main characters here, we should know what's driving them. Are they doing it because they agree with the Western forces, or the front, or whatever they call it?
Western forces?
I don't know. Do they agree with the president? Are they trying to get the truth out? Or are they doing it because they want to be the person that goes down in history to get that last photo of the president before he dies? Like, what is the intent? And if it is a commentary on journalism to show that there's, like, a selfish ambition aspect in it, then that should have been shown even more with the characters. And it was never sure if, like, I was never sure who was being selfish or who was caring for each other, or what, like, even the interactions among the characters. It was like, why, you know?
I felt like at the end of the day, the characters only cared about themselves.
But also she jumped in front of her.
I know, and that's...
So, and they went and saved her multiple times.
I know.
What's her... Jesse's character.
Jesse.
Like, multiple times throughout the movie. So it shows that, like, they do care for each other, but they're also there for the story. Like, it's very unclear. The other thing I'll say is if this is a movie about journalism, then I don't know how to word this, and maybe many people will disagree with me, and that's okay. But then to make the setting of this story about journalism in American Civil War feels like a low shot. Like, it's like a low blow. Because it's like, we've had a civil war in our history and are still having ramifications from that. And so it's a very triggering topic. B, we are in an election year in a very divided country because of just the political climate that we're in right now and have been for years. So you put out a movie that's American Civil War in a present day United States. You're basically trying to get people to come see your movie because you're trying to trigger emotions. And then I was so prepared to be like I was like prepared to feel things and to walk out of there being like, we can't let this happen type of thing. And I went and said, this movie's nothing about America.
It felt like you could have made this about anything else. You could have put this war overseas. You could have put this war on Mars. You could have made it something completely different. You could have made it in the future or the past, and it could have been the same story if this is a journalism story.
You could have honestly even taken like war necessarily out of it. Like, I know she wanted to be a war photographer, but like, even like if there were like riots or something, that would get the same.
I think the concept of it being centered around the war is interesting. I think it's interesting. I feel like Alex Garland. So I did like look up one thing, and this has been in development since 2018. Like, it was starting in 2018. So it's not like they made it last year and they're like, okay, we need to make this super political.
And I guess if you think about
film.
2018, a lot has happened in those years that have really changed American political culture.
But like Alex Garland, I feel like gives really great pitches for movies, and there's like always a big theme, but it's a very simple theme. So like Ex Machina was like dealing with the ramifications of AI. Men was like misogyny and like men suck. And like, I'm not sure what this one is. Really. It's like, I don't know. Because
if it is about journalism, you're taking a concept and you're putting it in this like, you're surrounding it with this kind of like, oh, baby cows. Sorry. Not like triggering, but like
it's
high emotional, like idea of something. And it's like, what's the point of doing that? Are you just trying to get people like I don't understand the point of putting it in. If the idea wasn't about an American Civil War, why was that the background?
I don't know. And
also, like, it felt so not American. Because it wasn't political. Which is, like, maybe just our, like, issue as a culture. But, like, I'm, like, I know that if that, like, we are all very opinionated on our politics, and like I had no idea what anybody stood for in that movie.
Well, like, even
if it was unrelated to like current politics.
To bounce off of that, like, going in, I was okay. I was firm enough in my political stance. Even I'm pretty political, would you say? Like, I know where I stand politically, and I was very okay going into this film if they did not cater towards my political leaning. Like, if they were like, oh, these fascists are like, we're going to follow these fascists. Like, okay, I don't like that. That's kind of scary and where we're heading. But like, I'll come along for the ride and it's okay. But it was so apolitical that there was no discourse.
It was like, I don't know. I felt like it would have helped to bring the story in touch with reality if there was a little bit more of that conversation of like, this is how we got here. And like for example, the one part that felt almost like the most in touch is like at the beginning of the movie, they show these clips of like present day, like real life riots and conflicts that have happened in the past couple of years. Like from all sides, right? So it's like, what that was like the most is like, oh, well, maybe that was leading up to, but it's like, it doesn't explain how they got there. And like, also, I don't know. I'm going to say this, but I don't know if it's like factual. So just keep that. It's also kind of, I think, ironic. And I felt this way when I like watched the trailer that like California and Texas paired up together.
You know, I thought about that too. But if you think about it, I think it's an outlandish idea that California and Texas would ever pair up.
But I guess they're the biggest states. That was like the point.
They are both pretty free-thinking states. Like they're both independent thinkers. And like their force is on its own. Would they ever team up?
I don't know.
I have no idea, but it makes me laugh. But like, if you think about it, they're pretty like, I guess just our critique and maybe a little bit of like a criticism of this movie is just that it felt kind of out of touch with like how would this actually play out. We were a little confused about what the main idea was, and there's a lot of things that we could continue talking about questions we have. How did these two people connect with? How did Lee and Joel connect with each other? What was that relationship like? Was Joel actually creepy? I don't know. We don't really know. Like, why was there no, like, Jesse kept getting them into really sketchy situations and there was no, like, consequence for that. They didn't really, like, try to teach her, like, hey, you're putting our safety at risk. And, like, there's just these pieces of, like, the actual, not even, like, the whole background when we're talking about, because we talked about that for a while, but, like, just the storyline itself and these characters and the relationships with these characters. There's so many gaps that I'm like, I don't know. But I will say this. I can understand now that you say that they've made it in 2018. Maybe there was like an original script that then because of what happened in the coming 6 years, like they were like, we can't put that out into the world anymore. Because that would be too especially in like 2024. Like, because it's a, you know, maybe they were like a little intimidated to be too in your face of like, and so they kept it very conserved. And to be completely honest, like A24 makes some pretty evocative films, but also they're a studio. They want to make money. This is their largest budget film yet. And they just recently said that they want to move away from some of the smaller indie films and get some bigger films to actually make money. So they're looking to make money. But they might not make it with this. I don't know if they're going to make it with this. I don't think that there's anybody who's going to come out of this movie feeling like angry or charged or anything like that, unless you're a movie nerd and you're like, come on. I don't feel like people are also going to come out and be like, oh that was a great. It's very. I was kind of unsure of how it would feel going in because I just figured there have to be a bias one way or the other, or at least it was going to be kind of triggering because it was going to be like, man, is this actually possible for us? I didn't feel that way coming out of it. I do have to say though, it's an experience. It's loud. It's so loud. It is loud. I don't appreciate that as much as Bryce does. I would rather not hear gunshots like the sound effects are on point. Like there's one scene with Jesse Plemons, which is probably he puts in a great performance. A little too well. I'm like a little like that scene, that's what I wanted the movie to be. That was what I thought. I thought that was a really intense scene. You were kind of like you were kind of holding your breath the whole time. I thought that's how the whole movie, it was like, it's shown in the trailer, like a clip of it. I thought that's how the whole movie was going to be, that I was going to be like, you know what I mean? There's just going to be all these
high intense moments, but it wasn't.
But yeah, the sound design was great.
Yeah.
I don't think it looked very good. It wasn't shot on film, which isn't a deal breaker.
But we had to comment that Jessie, the character Jessie, played by
Kaylee Spaney,
she shot with film.
On an FE2 Nikon. Pretty crazy cool,
So this is the
actually.
section for all of the film nerds out there, so Bryce can...
Yes.
Did you appreciate that?
I appreciated it a lot because there was story behind it, because she was like, oh yeah, my dad had these film cameras. Because if they were going to explain that, I was just going to be like, this is really dumb. But she was shooting on film. It was really cool. She was shooting on black and white. I have no idea how she had so many rolls of film. Like,
see,
film's expensive.
Those were questions. It's like, where did she get the material to actually like process her own film?
There is,
but like, where'd she keep getting that?
Yeah.
And then where, like, how does she have so many rolls of film?
Yeah,
she's shooting.
There was a cool scene where she does develop her own film, and I was like, okay, cool. They explained that. I don't have to be like, well, how'd that happen? And how she like scans her photos. Cool. But
I will say this.
Yeah.
And this was a thought I had during the movie. And I'm not trying to be overly critical, because I give a lot of credit to the people who were in this movie and who made this movie. And like I said, we don't know the backstory of like what the original versus what, you know.
Or maybe this was the original script.
Maybe it was. And like, also this is kind of it is a triggering topic. So maybe they were just trying not to go like overboard. And I completely, because I don't think I would necessarily be too strong, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's intimidating. But the one thing I felt when I was watching the movie is it was like the characters who are these great photographers don't look at all comfortable with a camera in their hand.
No. Also, Kirsten Dunst's character has a Sony, which is really cool.
Is it this one?
It's pretty much that one. She's got that one, except it doesn't have the Sony logo on the top because I guess they didn't get permission from Sony, but they apparently got permission from Nikon. But she's using manual focus Leica lenses. Really cool. Great lenses. They have a lot of character. But you wouldn't be shooting wartime photos on a manual focus lens. At least I've never shot war. I don't know. Maybe they do. But you would want something that would be able to keep up with the action. That's
Same
all.
with the film camera, though.
I know. Maybe she didn't have the access to get a digital camera.
No. I get that, but like the amount of time it took her to like focus the film camera, I was like, I've had Bryce take pictures of me on film camera. I know it takes longer than that.
Yeah, she was taking a while.
I mean, she did make the comment that a lot of them were out of focus, so I guess it was fine. It was just like, so yeah, I think I would love to know what you guys think if you watch it. Do you feel like it was a journalism movie, happened to be set in an American Civil War, or do you feel like it was supposed to be more of like an American Civil War movie, and they're just what were your thoughts and what did you feel like the main ideal was? Because maybe we need to give it another watch and just give it another day to sink in, and then we'll maybe watch some interviews, because sometimes they like really explain it for you in interviews, and you're like, oh, that's right. But yeah. So, that's our final rating. I think it was a good movie.
I thought it wasn't
good. Bad.
It wasn't great. It wasn't bad, but it was good.
But we definitely had some questions, maybe some things that we would have wanted to do differently.
Yeah.
But we are critiquing also with the understanding that this is someone's work.
Yes.
And you know, it's a hard topic to talk about, and maybe it'll be the movie, I said this last night, maybe it's the movie that comes before the movie type of thing.
Exactly.
Like it's just one movie that leads up to like a really great one that allows people to start having dialogue. I don't know.
Exactly.
We shall see. But definitely, I would say give it a watch.
Give it a watch. Don't rush out tonight to watch it. Like, I don't feel like you need to go watch it tonight, but watch it.
Yeah.
If you want to, like, I always recommend going to see it in a theater because it's a whole experience. But yeah, I recommend watching it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, that's fine. I think that just happened. I looked down like 30 seconds ago.
Okay.
So I'll have to just really edit the audio. Our audio died, so we'll just
Are we still doing it?
We're still doing it.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
I was really confused what was happening. So
No,
we're just
the
gonna do
audio.
an outro?
We'll just do the outro, because the audio's recorded on there, so I'll have to edit it.
So,
yeah.
Thanks for bearing with us as we
brave the road.
Like,
subscribe,
comment, review, comment,
all the things,
and we'll see you next episode.
Woohoo! Yeah. Also, in the movie, they go to Charlottesville. We're going to Charlottesville right now.
Yeah.
I think that went well.